Whoa there, buddy. Slow down your horses. I know you're excited to see more of this sexy man, but I promise, we'll get to him later. Alright, first on the business of boring stuff. By the year 1920, the national income of America exceeded those of the combined incomes of Britain, France, Germany, Japan, and Canada. That increased economic might have large impacts on the policies the US had towards European nations at the time. One of the most important things of which being their unwillingness to cancel debts a lot of countries had to America. President Coolidge, in refusing to cancel the $7 billion debt that Allied nations owed to America, remarked that they borrowed the money, and because of how little the Europeans had to pay back their debts, something of an economic crisis ensued. One that, in short, eventually led to the rise of fascism and outbreak of the Second World War. Okay, we cool, we chill. We're gonna get all the boring stuff out of the way first. So basically, there's the League of Nations. Even though the League of Nations was something that the President Wilson advocated for greatly at the end of World War I, he was unable to convince Congress to feel the same way as he did. Alright, it's about to get real sad in here. The fresh memory of all the casualties the US suffered during the war and the restrictions that membership had placed among the American economic aspirations, and finally Article X, which forced all members of the nations to defend any other members from aggressors, were the three most common reasons provided by those who were opposed to joining. And lastly, due to the isolationist sentiment shared by the public and many later presidents, America never did join the League of Nations. And that's sad. A lot of good stuff could have came out of that, but guess we'll never know. I guess they never miss, huh? Alright, we're gonna switch it up a little bit and talk about something fun. So let's talk about what was widely the most ignored major law passed by Congress in the 1920s. And that is called Prohibition, basically known as, no, you can't drink. That's bad. The 18th Amendment, which banned the creation and sale of intoxicating beverages, ushered in the period of American history known as Prohibition. What was astounding, however, was the very same bureaucrats who instituted Prohibition broke it. Most famously, President Harding, who was notorious for drinking during his tenure in office. Ladies and gentlemen, what did I say? I said you'd see more of this sexy man, and now here he is, the wonderful Ryland Mills. Isn't he beautiful?
And then I said to the Eastern European, oh, get out of my country. Okay, so were we thinking about banning alcohol or what?
I say let's get it done.
Ah, yes,
That's
for
what
my
we should
wife.
celebrate.
Yes, for my wife.
Mm.
That was it. Oh, good round.
Yet again, to point out the hypocrisy of one politician in particular, President Warren Harding. He installed Prohibition, yet he broke it. He drank in office. And yes, we mean President Warren Harding, we mean this baboon of a man. So, are you gonna run us out this land or what for oil?
Yeah, brother, I got plenty of land to spare.
It's a deal!
It's a deal.
Right, that's all settled.
Right, round for me and this man.
But, sir, isn't that illegal?
So is our deal. Cool
Makes
it.
sense.
Bring us the juice.
Right. Yeah, cowboy.
Yeah, brother.
Now, no politician remembers Harding as a good president. He illegally rented out land to oil companies to mine in public reservations. Highly illegal, and most of his cabinet members went to jail. Nobody likes him. He's a baboon. He was a terrible president. And he died, which allowed Coolidge to take over as president. Welcome to the First Revolution, comrades. You all ready to completely disregard our doctrines and maintain an autocratic state for the rest of our time in power? Yes, Ryland?
Should it not be our primary goal to eventually allow the government we've instated to dissolve, letting the people run things?
Look at the tea chart.
Yeah, presumably not.
Look at the tea chart, Ryland. Look at the tea chart. Look at the tea chart.
Ah, I see. But I swear I read something in one of Lenin's writings about the withering away of the state. That's bizarre.
If it's not in the red textbook, consider it to be entirely inaccurate, you absolute simpleton.
After having heard that incredibly inspirational speech, I now feel motivated to go blow up the house of Alexander Mitchell Palmer.
Following the threats by this clearly deranged communist were the Palmer raids. In April 1919, a total of about 30 letter bombs were sent to a variety of people. Most of them were government officials. A majority of the bombs failed to do what they were supposed to do. Some, however, never reaching their intended targets, and others malfunctioning upon being opened. As the bombings resumed in June, sent by a group of anarchists known as Galenius, a quantity of packaged bombs that were much larger than their predecessors was sent to similar targets. One of the bombs found its way to the house of Attorney General Alexander Mitchell Palmer. The raids that were conducted as a result of the bombings were named after him, the Palmer Raids. The Palmer Raids were a series of violent raids conducted against suspected communists and anarchists. They carried on from late 1919 on into 1920. Many individuals were prosecuted unjustly and deported back to their countries of origin. There were also numerous cases in which arrestees were tortured and abused in inhumane ways. Directly as a result of the raids, the American Civil Liberties Union was created in 1920. Ooh, yes, ton. Show the camera. Ooh.
What are you doing, step bro?
The 1920s. The age where women could show their ankles without men hating them. Well, men still hated them, but they could show their ankles at least. Anyway, in the 1920s, women were allowed to show more skin than ever. It was a cultural shock. No, Mom, I'm not looking at inappropriate pictures of women from the 1920s. I know they can show their ankles, but apparently that's cool now, I swear. Welcome to Charlie's Tinsel Factory. We have an old tradition here. With all our new applicants for jobs, we like to take shots of vodka. So if you wouldn't mind, yes, I know it's prohibition, but screw the president. That is some good stuff. All right, so, Mr. What's your name?
My name is Spaghetti.
Oh, Mr. That is a very foreign name, good sir. Where are you from?
It looks like this. It looks like a boot. It's Italy.
You're from Italy. Sir, I graduated from 3rd grade. I have a very high education.
Yes.
Some might even call me a genius.
Yes.
And my memory of geography serves me correctly. Italy is in Eastern Europe.
Which way is east?
East is to the right.
No.
Turkey, Macedonia, Greece.
No. Cause
Germany, God.
Cause south.
Germans?
South up here, north down here, east this way, west that way. I am.
Did you go to school?
Yes.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I live in northwestern.
Sir, you are southeastern European. We don't hire Eastern Europeans. Eastern is a part of your name, sir. We can't. Let me see your hands.
Yes.
Mr. Spaghetti.
Yes.
We cannot hire you. I am so sorry. I'm sorry. You gotta go.
You see these hands?
I see him, sir.
You see these hands?
I see him, sir.
They make much pizza sauce, and you do not want to hire me?
Yes, sir.
After I make you pizza sauce?
Americans first, get out. So, I may or may not have just realized we're going to completely blow this time limit, but it's fine. Basically, in the 1920s, immigrants were not exactly accepted in America, with the imminent growing of white pride and nationalism. This followed alongside with the rise of the KKK, made for a very dangerous recipe for immigrants, specifically Eastern Europeans in that time, including anybody from Eastern Europe, such as Italians, were not chosen over American-born workers. There was no equal opportunity with the rise of nationalism in America. Psst. I forgot to put this in, so this is a last-minute addition. Don't tell Mrs. Mullenkamp. The Great Migration was one of the greatest movements in American history. Men were out fighting the war in World War I in Europe and France, which left the factories open. For the first time, African Americans and women had the chance to work. They weren't being persecuted, well, they still were, but not as much, and job opportunities were opening up for them, giving them an economic start in the capitalistic country of America. Although the conditions were rather harsh and cruel, they had a chance to make some money for their family, finally. And with the mobilizing of war in America, there was plenty for them to do in the factories.
Brother, you sure? You sure this area is safe? What is it, Bo? What'd she do this time?
She took the kids.
I mean, I hate to interrupt. This seems like a pretty awkward time, but what'll it be, gents?
Throw my kids back.
little something to make it forget.
Oh, don't worry, bub. I got the good stuff straight out of Russia. It's called vodka. Them commies know how to make a drink.
All right, thank you. Pour us another round.
Slow down there, partner. I know you're thinking two things. One, why has this video declined in quality all of a sudden? It started off really well, but now clearly you're just being lazy. And two, how did those men get to that underground parlor where his kids were taken away from him? Well, they got there in a Model T, which completely revolutionized the way Americans traveled. From things such as interstates and highways, and traveling at high speeds completely revolutionized infrastructure and how Americans changed. Oh my god, what is that?
Took the kids.
Oh god! Oh god!
We heard you're Catholic, boy.
There was a record high number of sightings and ghosts in the 1920s, which conveniently happened to be alongside the imminent rise of the KKK, along with white nationalism and racism, which also came along with the banning of Eastern Europeans and status quos on immigration. The KKK eventually became so powerful they marched on Washington. I know it seems crazy today that something like that would happen, but back in the 1920s, they were a serious and prominent threat.
I lost everything, including the kids.
Why, good sir, if you would have invested in the Bitcoin 10 years ago, you would have been plenty rich. Here, have a Bitcoin.
What's it up to now?
Quite a dollar. Quite a dollar.
Oh my.
Meow. What's that sound? No, that's not me playing with airplanes. That is clearly the stock market crashing in 1929, the start of the Great Depression. Now, as much as we may joke, this was a terrible time in the lives of America. Majority of the country lost their life savings. They lost their livelihood, their homes, and all of their savings in their accounts. Inflation rose and the economy crashed and burned, sequentially leading to, appropriately named, the Great Depression, one of the worst historic periods in America. Okay, I knew this is the moment you've been waiting for. It's your favorite Where's Waldo impressionist, Scopes. The Scopes trial actually set a lot of precedent for America. It was the beginnings of science versus religion. Science had been constantly evolving, and religion was refusing to change along with the evolving times. This was bound to set some conflicts. Alright, time for some boring paragraph narration. The Scopes trial that took place in 1925 concerned the prosecution of John Scopes, a Tennessee high school teacher who attempted to teach his students Darwin's theory of evolution, something that was recently made illegal in Tennessee. William Jennings Bryan, a three-time presidential Democratic nominee, was the main prosecutor. The defense, headed by a man named Clarence Darrow, the trial was brought to be an opportunity by many to call into question the constitutionality of the recent bill. The trial became incredibly popular in a local affair, with something of the big street fair being set up just outside the courthouse. People from all over showed up to witness what was predicted to be a historic trial. The battle was a hard fought on both sides, but the prosecution eventually came out on top. Scopes was found guilty and fined a mere $100, which is a kind of stupid punishment. All this hype for $100? What is that? That's stupid. That's so unnecessary. All this media hype for like $100? That is not how mafia works. So Rylan, was the 1920s the second Gilded Age?
I do believe it was.
Alright, cool. So we're in the store, mobiles is here. Pass the jewel, pass it. If you're not 15 and have a nicotine addiction, you're not cool, Rylan. You're not cool.
I'm working on it.
But the question history neglects to answer. Mobamba or sicko mode? It has been ignored by historians worldwide, and it is time we step forward and finally answer this question with a clear and obvious answer. Sicko Mode is a way better song than Mo Bamba. That's final.